Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest video in the NetBeans 101 series, focusing on the options dialog. Today we're going to look at code templates, which is inside Editor. If you've used Emmet before in the past, you will know that code templates can be very powerful and can be very useful in your code. And you can actually use Emmet within NetBeans. There is one slight problem with Emmet, and that is it only supports HTML and CSS. If you want to have code templates for PHP or Java or C or something like that, then Emmet won't work for you. So how do you actually use it? Well, in NetBeans we've got code templates. Now, they're not exactly the same as Emmet, and you can still have Emmet and code templates at the same time. Let's have a look. Here I've got a NetBeans project which I've created called templates, and I have two files, index.php, which is a blank index, and test.html, which is completely empty. If you look at Tools, Options, Miscellaneous, and click on Emmet, you'll see I actually have Emmet installed. Now, Emmet uses for its accelerator key Control, Alt, and N, not the tab. You can change it to tab, but I'm using Control, Alt, and N for Emmet because I would prefer to use tab in the editor. Now, it's possible that you may want to change these the other way around because of code completion, and to do that you can use, for example, Shift and Space for code templates or whichever you want. If you turn it to Shift and Space, you'll find that that might be a little bit better for you under certain circumstances. I'll leave it at tab for now. You can see here that we have a number of languages, and there are a lot of languages. You can start with the Apache conf file, and you can come down to, well, as you can see, an awful lot of languages. We're going to focus on PHP and HTML. If you go into your code templates, you'll probably find that the comment one isn't there. This is one that I've actually created and put in. When you actually expand a template, you can decide what's going to happen, whether it will reformat the text, reindent the text, or do nothing. We will look at creating a code template in a moment, but let's have a look at using them. So, first of all, let's have a look at Emmet. If you know Emmet, you know that by pressing the exclamation mark, it's called the exclamation mark, and pressing tab, you will get a base document. Now, in NetBeans, the document isn't really a very big one, and we'll change this and we'll create one in NetBeans later on. But that's using Emmet. So how do we use code templates in PHP and something like that? Well, first of all, it's the tab key, and you just need to know what the abbreviations are. So, for example, if you type CLS, if I press tab now, I should get the class name because you can see it's highlighted at the bottom here, and so that's the one I'm going to get. And you can see it's entered the class name, it's put the constructor in, and class name is already highlighted. And if I press tab again, you'll see it will go to construct, back to class name, and I can type in a name for it. So, for example, like that. Press tab, and we can leave it on construct, so I will press enter, and the cursor comes down to the blank line. So that's how you can use a PHP code template. It works very similar with other templates as well. Now, you may want to actually surround some code that you already have. So for example, you may have, let's make it easy, yes, just do that, and you may then want to actually surround the code with something. So let's have that, and we can then highlight this code, and if you come into the bar here and click on the bulb, you will actually get a list of items that you can surround it with. So for example, you can do do's and fors. So if we do a for, you can see it's come in. Now, one of the nice things about the code completion here is if I change that to I, you'll see that all the other variables changed to I. And put it back to index. When I actually press tab, you'll notice that it tabs between index and array. The other ones are not changed. If I want to keep it like that, I can just press enter, and as you can see, it's surrounded my code for me, which is really, really useful and something which you can actually use quite often within your code. How about, for example, doing values and having it check certain values for you? Well, if you, for example, if you press Control Shift and F, everything is formatted nicely for you. So if I put that in and I now type in for, you can see I get a for each array as value, and I can actually decide which one I want. So I'm going to come down to for each array as value. I could go for that one, so let's do that. Now again, I can change the names, but I'm not going to. If I press enter until the cursor comes down to the first blank line, if I type in $V, you can see automatically it's picked up the word value. If I come out, let's just go back in again and type in just dollar, you'll see I get the different variables, and I want value, so I can just click on it and select. Now, one of the nice things is that if you then type that, the code completion will offer you the right type, and if you press one letter, you can see that it's actually narrows it down, and then you can just press enter, and there you are. So that's code completion. That's how it works. There are lots and lots of different ways of using it like that. But let's have a look at actually creating your own code completion template. So I shall delete this. And what I'd like to do is show you first of all with something very easy. And what we will do is I shall just copy this, Control C, okay, and type it into here, Control V, and I'll just show you what everything does. So this is going to be our code completion template. What I've done is we have the comment characters, the stars, then I've put in a variable. Now the variable starts with $, and then open curly brackets, a net for the variable, and close curly brackets. Now the variable can actually hold quite a number of different items, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Underneath, using the PHP documenter system, I've put in an author tag and then a second variable, which is $, and then I've just called it user. I could have called it author, it doesn't really matter. And then finally, I've used a reserved word. Now there are two reserved words within NetBeans for complete code. And the first one is cursor. So that's where the cursor is going to end up. If I wanted the cursor somewhere else, then it could actually end up somewhere else. And the other one is selection. And that is when you want to surround code. It defines the position of where you're going to surround code. So for example, if you're doing a for loop or whatever, then you'd actually create the loop at the top, you'd put selection here, and then finish the loop at the bottom. And if you had selected something, it would be placed within the loop. So that is the code template. So I'm going to highlight it. I shall copy it. I shall come to Tools, Options. I shall just remove comment. So it's right. So click on New, and I'm going to type in comment. So every time I type comment and then press tab, this will happen. I could have actually made it shorter. So here you can see that it's empty. So here we go. We'll paste that in, format it, Alt Shift and F will format it correctly for you. Give it a description, heading comment, and then you've got your context. Now, if you want it within the PHP code, then place a tick within the PHP code. If you want it outside the PHP code, remove the tick. It's very much your choice as to which one you have. And click Apply. Click OK. I shall just delete that. If I type in comment and then press tab, you can see there is our comment. Let's now look at the sorts of variables and things like that that you can actually put in to a code template. Because if we go back to options, you'll see here that we've got selection, cursor, exception, and then $3 signs and this type of thing. So you can see, and then we've got condition, variable. Why are some of these in capitals or caps, and why are some in small letters? Again, if I just double click on it, you can see here that much easier that you've got within the curly bracket quite a number of different items. And this is of course a while loop, so you can see there's some different ones. So let's have a look at that. Now, just close this. Oops, where are we? Close. First of all, if you type, we're going to get errors on here. You can have a placeholder. Now, a placeholder, for example, is anything all in capital letters. So, for example, you could have title. If you're doing this on HTML or you're doing an HTML page, then this would be a placeholder, and you could have a number of these. Now, this is really, it's just a parameter when you have more than one item with the same name within the system. Now, one of the nice things about this, you can then have something like that, which you can reuse. Now, this is actually the variable name, and then you can actually type in a default that you want in here. So, and the default must be in double inverted commas, not single inverted commas. It must be in double inverted commas. So, for example, you might want to put, if it was an HTML one, something like home page. Okay, and that is how you would create your variable. Now, let's look at doing that within this code template for the HTML. So I'm just going to copy that. Well, I'll just cut it out. And we come down here. So here we have document, which is being highlighted. So I shall press escape, double click on it, and put it in there. Now you may want to also have, say for example, a description of your site, and so I've got this, just to save time because my typing is relatively slow, I've put in a meta tag, and you can see I've given it the name description, and it's got the content of title, which is exactly the same here and here. Okay, so those are exactly the same. Now this isn't really, I know this came from Emmett, but it isn't really a very good default page, because we need to have some other information within the page. So again, I've got these saved on a different page, so I'll just type them in, and as you can see, we're now becoming much more responsive. We shall just close that up. So we have the title, we have a description. You may want to put in some keywords. I know that mostly they're ignored, but you can always put in the keywords, and again you can see I've got title. What about putting in an author? So let's just put in an author, and again here you can see I've got author. I don't really need to put in author because I'm only going to use it once, but I can put it in and use it here on that. Now what about a style sheet? We could do with a style sheet somewhere in the header. So again, you see I've called it style, and then I've given it a default name here. Notice new var name, and I've lost it, a new var name. They are the same. It's not a problem. And you must use the double inverted commas. So here you can see I've used the single inverted comma there. So what else do we need to do? How about somewhere for the cursor to go? Well, that's a good idea. So we'll put the cursor between the body tags so that when we finish editing, that's where the cursor will end up. Now you may want to have a copyright or something like that on your page, and I certainly do. So again, I've done this, and you can see I've got title, which is the same as the title here, and then I've got another one, copyright, and notice that I've got this editable is false. So that means that when you press tab, it will not come down to here. Okay, so let's see how we can make this work. Oh, one other thing. Yes, one other thing. You might, I sometimes write for a number of different languages. So here, as you can see, I'm in UK English, British English rather than American English. If you want just general English, you can do that. If you wanted French, for example, you could do that, and any other language as the default. But I'm going to keep it to there. Now, this is giving an error simply because lang is not supposed to be this long. That's why the error, you can see it's bad value. It should not be more than 8 characters long. But don't worry about that because it will actually work. Control and C. Come to Tools, Options. Where are we? Here we go. And let's find HTML. And just make sure we don't have... So we have an HTML link, which is not very good. So let's create a new one, which we will call HTM, and click on OK, and paste that in. Now, give it a description because you'll forget about it at some point. You'll notice there's no context because context doesn't exist within HTML. Click on Apply, and we'll click on OK. I shall just delete that, and what we will do now is we will type in HTM and press Tab, and as you can see, it's put everything in with the cursor over the ENGB. If I press Tab, it comes down to Home Page, and you can see that the description is Home Page, keywords are Home Page, and down at the bottom here it says Home Page. If I press Tab again, it'll come down to John Lavelle, and I can change the author. And then Tab again, it'll come to Style and Style Sheets. If I press Tab again, it will not come down to the copyright, because if you remember, we made that editable equals false. So here we go. You'll see it's gone back up to the top. So I can press Enter, 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 and you can see now that the cursor is at the to-do point, and we can then start typing whatever we would like. So, for example, to use Emmet. So I'm using Emmet inside. Okay, there are a lot more items that you can do with code completion, but those are the basic ones, and most of the time that's all that you'll actually need to use. Let's see if we can find one that might be useful for you just to finish. What I shall do is I shall come to the PHP, and this is one to create a connection for a MySQL database. So just delete text. So here you can see that we've given it the $3. Now the $3 mean that this is going to be a variable, because the $1 sign is for the code completion, so you've got to escape it, and to escape it, it's a $. So there are $3 there. So if I just highlight that, Control C, come into Tools, Options, down to PHP, oops, and we want a new one which we'll call MyCon. Enter that. Control V. We'll make the context PHP code, and we will call this my SQL connection. And click on Apply and click on OK. If I delete that, type in my con, you can actually see that it's found it here. So I'll press Tab, and there you have it. You can see that the link is automatically set as a variable because of those triple dollar signs. Okay, because of the triple dollar signs, and we gave it a default name of link. Okay, just one final thing before we go. There is a very, very good plugin called Cheat Sheet, and I've actually got it over here. You can see it shows the key bindings, but it also shows the code templates. And look at that! We've just created MyCon, and it's actually in the system. It's here already, and it's showing it. Now, one of the nice things about this is it's context sensitive, so if I go over to HTML, you'll notice that we've got the HTML, and here's the one that we created earlier there. So delete that, and you can see the details about it. So it's telling me that I want HTML, and press Tab, and there we go. So I'd recommend downloading this from the NetBeans website. It's called Cheat Sheet, and it's written by, I believe it's the product manager for NetBeans. Okay, I hope you found that useful. It's probably a long video. Please comment, like, share, and subscribe. My name's John, and I'll see you next time.